So today I'm joined by Pierre-Henri Janssens, the CEO and co-founder of Topograph. Pierre, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks a lot, Jake. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Thank you for joining us. So could you start by sharing a bit of your background and then a bit of an overview of Topograph's goals and philosophies when it comes to KYB data?
Yes, absolutely. I'm Pierre, CEO of Topograph, and I'm coming from the payment industry first, from the fintechs, startups world. With one of my co-founder, we created an electronic money institution for BNP Paribas. The goal was to create a PSP for marketplaces, and we suffered a lot about KYB, obviously. And we suffered a lot with accessing data and corporate data, corporate documents. And that's probably the reason why we created Topograph. The goal was to onboard merchants of marketplaces, and merchants can come from everywhere in the world. At least it was in Europe, and we wanted to pre-fill data, collect documents, make sure everything was okay. And yeah, it was not possible to do very precisely what we wanted to do. And so that's the reason why we created Topograph and Topograph. So we are a corporate data document provider, and we are focused on KYB and AML, anti-money laundering. And because we are focused on the regulatory sector, we believe that we need to be accurate. We need to be 100% sure about the data you will receive. And to do that, two principles. We are always connected to official business registries, always, never third parties in between. And we always collect data, documents in real time. So you are absolutely sure about data quality. And we have done that in 40 countries, so all European countries.
Awesome, thank you. And yeah, from my understanding, being connected to official registries is great for accuracy, but perhaps introduces some of the challenges when it comes to how often the data is refreshed, which I believe is something you guys at Topograph are kind of really strong on, is data that's accurate but is super up to date almost any time you check as well. So I imagine we'll cover that a little later in the conversation, but we constantly hear about the industry's desire for more data, but having more data doesn't automatically equate to better decisions. So why is real-time data, transparency, and explainability more important for modern insurance carriers than simply increasing the raw volume of information they receive?
Yeah. Indeed, there is always a risk of being overwhelmed with data. And of course, volume without transparency, without accuracy, is just noise. And that's all. And maybe it's even better to have less volume, less data, or even no data at all coming from providers if you are not sure about accuracy. Because if you get data, it will give you some sense of confidence, but it can create false confidence. So what we do, it's real-time data matters a lot. It's absolutely key indeed for accuracy. Just to be absolutely sure about director's name, shareholder structure, if the company is active or not, etc., etc. And it's absolutely not travel at all to have this level of certainty. And so by doing real-time data directly from registries, we can have this level of transparency where every single piece of data can be linked back to its primary source, to its single PDF, to a picture, to an API. And this is, I believe, what kind of transparency the market is asking for. So yes, that's the reason why we decided to go for real-time data, and also real-time data because you can explain everything. You can explain, as I said, where it's coming from. You can audit your flow, which is absolutely key, of course, for your compliance team, of course, for internal audit, but obviously, of course, when you are audited by authorities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's so much value to explainability, transparency, and an audit trail behind data. And you mentioned about data giving you confidence. It makes total sense. That's exactly what it's for, right? And as you say, that confidence can be false if the data itself is in question, and it undermines the purpose of the data. So, yeah, you've painted a great picture on why those aspects are particularly important to data. And leading on from that, there's a very real danger of underwriting and operations teams being overwhelmed by the volume of data they receive. How should insurers structure their workflows to ensure that this intelligence it's actually actionable and operationally usable rather than just something that creates cognitive overload?
Yeah, of course, yeah, because just as we said, volumes can be noise, especially for inaccuracy data. It's even worse. So, but even with accurate data, you can still have some noise if you just don't prioritize your development. It's a question, of course, of impact, where you're going to have the most impactful results given the data you can collect, given also your compliance procedures. And maybe we can take some specific examples about monitoring, because you have to do monitoring, you have to do recertification, and potentially you want, especially for the most risky counterparts, you want to do more than just 1 or 2, 3 years recertification. You want to do daily monitoring, which is possible when you do real-time request, by the way. But if you do daily monitoring, it could be very great for your most risky portfolio. But the problem is you will be absolutely overwhelmed with data. And in that case, what we say to our client, first, maybe start by the most important part. Is the company active or not? It's the most important way to start to do monitoring. It's the most important criteria to check. Then probably the second or the most important part is just check if there is a change in terms of directors. If there's a new director, then you have to adapt the screening on sanction list. If someone is not director any longer, just remove it from your screening, and then you will even make earn money by not spending money to your screening software. So that's probably where you should start. I'm thinking about monitoring precisely because it's usually very difficult, and it frightens a lot of people saying, okay, I'm going to be overwhelmed. But even for other parts, like pre-filled data inside an onboarding funnel, there are the easy wins always. And we saw a client that integrated us to pre-fill data in onboarding funnel. They did the 80-20 part very easily. Of course, the 20 last part, you have to spend more time. But directly, they increased the conversion rate by 40% right away after just 2 weeks. So there are some easy wins here with data, and always a question of prioritization inside all your workflows. And it's also our job to guide you through the easy wins, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you say, it's kind of contextual, I guess, how you use data and how you approach it, and being able to prioritize and identify the best places to spend your time seems beneficial. And I think that supports the wave of kind of AI automation solutions that we see at the moment. They're particularly good at solving for that kind of thing. So understanding where to spend your time and where to unleash automation, I think is kind of a really valuable point there. And turning unstructured intake into structured insight has historically been a massive hurdle for the insurance industry. Why do you think that large language models make this extraction genuinely feasible now? And how is the accuracy of these models evolving to build trust in a way that earlier technological approaches couldn't?
Yeah. No, but we clearly are living in a wonderful world, definitely. Of course, LLMs are clearly an answer of why now, why we are building Topograph now and not 10 years before. Because we can go so much faster and first in the country's integration, but also in terms of depth, where we can, in terms of data we can extract. So for example, we can extract data easily from standard PDF, standard pictures, but also into non-standardized PDF. To find, for example, shareholders, some missing shareholders, or to find other key persons, for example, people from a board, which are displayed in articles of association. This is some kind of very, very valuable data which are hidden inside very long, unstructured PDF, but that now we can have access through LLM. So it's definitely, absolutely a key moment for LLM. That being said, of course, there is always a question of trust, of quality, of hallucination. It's the very well-known question of hallucination. But I feel trust is built through two mechanisms, because, of course, we use AI everywhere. First, we keep absolutely every single original local terms alongside the standardized output. We standardize many things, many data, but we always keep the local terms so that you can double check, you can make sure everything is correct in terms of mappings. And second thing, also, every day we benchmark continuously. We do daily monitoring on all the countries we have covered to make sure that the data we have today is accurate in comparison to what should be the expected output. And so we check every day dozens of thousands of requests across all our 45 regions we are covering, just to make sure everything is absolutely accurate. And it is, actually. This is also maybe I should have started with that. Long story short, it's definitely very accurate. And the reason why also but maybe if it's also something I assume we're going to talk about in some minutes, but because we don't use one big model, one size fits all to extract data, but no, we use specific LLM model for different tasks.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. And we're seeing a similar thing in that different models have different strengths, and you can experience that when you're using kind of the typical consumer grade chat type functions. They all have a different setting, and they'll achieve different things in different ways. But I think the vertical application as well of LLMs and AI at the minute is really starting to show its colors. When a model has been configured, prompted, and trained on a certain type of data within a certain industry, it really starts to excel, just as a human would in that context. Like a human with an understanding of an industry and what it's looking for is going to be so much more effective than one without. And the same goes for AI and LLMs.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw also some very incredible results. I'm thinking about some very edge cases of legal forms. It's really micro, but it gives a good example. In many countries, you don't have the list of all the enums of all the list of legal forms values. and you have a non-governmental institution called the GLIF, GLIF organization, giving all an ISO standard, but it's not complete. So from time to time, you discover a new legal form you've never mapped, because it's absolutely an edge case. And France is particularly great for that. We have the record, the all-time high record for legal form in the terms of numbers of legal forms. I think it's more than 250 of different legal forms. So it's a mess. And sometimes you discover a new one. And in that case, LLMs are particularly great to do a mapping of a very restricted list of enum, of a dozen lists of enum, just to say, okay, this is can be definitely considered to be, I don't know, for example, a limited company.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the value of vertical and task-specific AI really shines through with those examples, because we've used humans as an analog or a comparison there, but the benefit of AI is that it has an astronomical memory. It can kind of recall that memory in no time at all. So it develops the same level of as competence as a human does, but it can generally execute on stuff like this kind of a lot more efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. But as said just before, one precaution, the one size fits all, the just using the most complex model doesn't work well. So that's also one of the biggest learning from the past months. But three major issues. First, it will cost a lot by taking the most complex model, LM model. Second, it will be also quite long to respond in comparison to others. And finally, simply doesn't work at all for all situations. And I'm thinking about very specific use case. But for example, extracting shareholders' data in Belgium, we use a specific LM model that we are not using to extract shareholders' data in Germany. This is two different ways, because this is not the same complexity. And same again in Belgium, we don't use the same LLM model to extract data, directors' data from articles of association. So again, it's fine-tuning to make sure you're using the proper model, to give to this model the proper criteria, given the use case he has to perform, if it's a shareholder's information, if it's a director's data, and so on. And this is a kind of the kind of work we are doing. The bad aspect is that it's very long, of course. So you need to make sure you're using the right model every time you have a specific new use case. But at least it gives more reliability and more reliability, faster also results at a cheaper price. So all good aspects at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly guilty of that. Whenever I'm using Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude, I'll, for most things, switch on the complex or deep thinking mode, and sometimes it's less appropriate as models go. So we've kind of touched on this already, but we often talk about building trust with the underwriter, and this applies to every industry, but it's particularly pertinent in insurance. But on top of trust, there's the equally important regulatory and compliance driver. So how are increasing requirements from regulators for strict traceability and defensibility shaping the way AI and real-time data must be managed?
So about regulations, definitely it's always increasing. Regulators are always increasing the pressure on obliged entities. We saw that a lot in payment industries, especially that in payment industries, it's a perfect example for money laundering. Like all the PSP know this fact very, very well. You are a buyer, but you are also the seller. So basically, you just launder money. And so we see a very big shift. We are seeing that in France since some months, even years now, from having an obligation of means to an obligation of results. This is a very important shift. And in the next regulations to come, AMLR or AMLA, definitely the pressure is going to increase. For example, with AMLA, now the most risky obliged entities will have to do daily monitoring, not on screening, of course, it's already in the text, but on business registry itself. And so it's totally new. It's really totally new. And because they will have to do daily monitoring, of course, they will have to do these real-time requests we are doing to business registry to make sure everything is okay. And the regulators want to forward these obliged entities to check if XYZ company is still active or not, or if the company structure is still the same at a specific date, and to report about these changes. So now the pressure is always on, definitely. And also there is something new. The regulator, the authorities are also worried about quality of data, about inaccuracy. It's not enough to say, okay, I took something from these private vendors. It's not enough anymore. You have to prove that this data is accurate. You have to prove that you collected the PDF, the original, the official PDF, timestamped by the registry, with an accurate timestamp based on the starting date of your onboarding. And you have to prove that there is an accuracy. Its data is absolutely accurate because between your PDF and data you used. And this is a very new shift because suddenly you need to collect documents, you need to collect timestamp documents to collect this proof for everybody. And if you based your decisions on inaccurate data, the regulators will be able to just spot you right away. So it's a new shift. I would say we have these two big momentums, the new text coming the next months, next years, and also I would say the more new approach, not in the text, but new approaches about data quality by authorities. At least in France, it's absolutely clear. And we exchanged with our German counterparts last week. They share absolutely the same feeling. So definitely, it's direction that everybody is seeing.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a real magnitude to the challenge you explained there. One that I guess is felt every day. We used to review documents manually, and there's almost a similar amount of manual work involved in making sure the data that we extract is traceable and explainable. So again, I think it really carves out a niche for LLM and AI automation. And it's interesting, right? Because compliance and regulation on AI it's so new, the technology is so new. And so not only is there a lot going on regulation-wise, but there's probably a lot of change coming as well. So it's not like we can settle into a routine of exactly how to handle that just yet. It's something that I think insurers, but any company using AI in a meaningful way, they need to be agile, and they need to remain ready to respond to any changes. And I guess more on the implementation side, perhaps even the build versus buy side. So many insurers inherently want to build technologies internally, but they often hit the wall when it comes to scaling. They can build something successful on a small scale, but it's so much tougher to scale. So whether that's down to maintaining hundreds of API connectors or managing LLM operations or even ensuring cross-jurisdictional coverage, what, in your view, is the harsh reality of the pure build approach today?
So I will talk about, of course, our job. So doing connectors to business registries. In short, it's tough. It's really, really tough. Because just if you are used to companies' houses, just simply forget about it. It's an exception in the world to have an API. It exists a bit. It exists in France. It's already not as easy as it is in UK. It exists in some other countries, like in Denmark, like in Estonia. But generally speaking, it does not exist. And so it's not as easy just to integrate APIs. You will also have to do very strange things by meaning doing some automation of script to collect data on websites. Websites change every day. You are not warned about a change, obviously. You need to collect data inside pictures, PDFs, sometimes hidden after 8, 9, 10 steps funnel, which is absolutely insane to automate. And sometimes you even had to purchase with your credit card some document. And to automate the purchase of a document, honestly, it's super, super hard. Because of course, you're not going to spend some part of your day just looking at your mobile phone to validate the strong authentication. So this is absolutely complex. It's very, very complex. It's a totally different world and different topic in comparison to building a SaaS software. It's really different kind of skills, different kind of developers to do what we are doing. So the make or buy decision, the make or buy question is quite simple, honestly, regarding corporate data. First, do you have legal entities, counterparts in many countries? If yes, when I say many, it's above 3 countries. If yes, you won't have the chance, you won't have chosen to choose a corporate, private vendors. It would be too difficult for you to integrate countries per countries. If you have less, maybe you can check. You can check if it's if you have some APIs like companies' houses, and then maybe you can say, okay, let's do the work myself. But once you will have done that, the work is not over. You will have to do automatic mapping with all the legal forms. So, for example, with France, good luck. I mean, it's a tough job. It's a little bit easier again with company houses, but yes, the work is not just do we have API? If yes, let's integrate the API. It's do we have an API? It's rare, but if yes, we are lucky. And then, do we really want to maintain our own LLM models to automatic mapping of legal form, automatic mapping of director's name, automatic extraction from PDFs? This is where the real questions are. And if you are unlucky, and I mean, it's probably the most important case, you will end up in very complex countries. Like, for example, Germany, there are no API, the websites are very unstable. It's a really, really a tough country. Netherlands, you have to purchase a document to extract data from it. Same for Ireland, same for Spain. So, and I'm just talking about, let's say, classical Western European countries. I'm not even talking about some very far foreign countries. So even just in Europe, even just in Western European countries, everything is different, and sometimes it's very, very complex. So the make or buy decision, at least in our world, it's quite straightforward.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you there. I think the task of creating something like the technologies we're talking about, it's often viewed as less of a task than it actually is. And then when you add into that all the variables, all the data sources, and the complexity compounding from that, it's a crazy thought to try and kind of build something that is functional and scalable when that's not your primary source of business. Like, your primary source of business is something else, and this is a tool for you. I think you've put it well there to give something of an answer to the build or buy conversation. And on the topic of scaling and build versus buy, how does the combined value of solutions lead to a whole that's greater than the sum of its parts? And how does it allow insurers to buy key robust components and seamlessly assemble them, accelerating their transformation without the massive maintenance burden?
Yeah, absolutely. A very great question, because obviously, compliance workflows is not only accessing corporate data, or not only screening, or not only ID checks or whatever. It's a whole process. It's not also a one-time check you do at onboarding and that's all. No, it's a continuous commitment of checks. So yeah, it's complex. It's very complex. And the bad things, it can be seen by people as the work you have to do, and not the work bringing values, unfortunately. But the thing is, when you do it very, very wrong, you will really lose money. You will really lose business. So the way to see compliance is saying, okay, if we manage to do better than people, if we manage to do better than competitions, it will drive business. And that's potentially the most important part, most important message to say to people, listeners today. It's if you manage to adjust all the different parts together in a very great way, it's business value. I had someone, I think, I talk about this example just at the beginning, about someone who just plugged Topograph, let's say very fast way to pre-fill data in the onboarding. Right away, they have 30% of conversion rate directly. It's a neobank. For a neobank, it's 30% of business, of additional business, of acquisition costs, of lower acquisition costs. So it's a direct impact on KPIs. But as I said, it's a whole process. And so it's not just Topograph alone, or screening alone, ID checks alone. It's a whole process. And this whole process with C2R, together, it brings value. Together, you can take the best product together and adjusting them together, doing the best workflow you have to do for all the different kind of situations. And then, indeed, you have higher values, higher total values in comparison to the sum of all the parts if they were used separately. So, no, it's definitely key to orchestrate everything in a very good way to have an efficient process and to have these business impacts.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I think a good allegory for it is the impact that skills within Claude has had. So each small skill within Claude, they have value and they're kind of useful for an AI to do, but in isolation, they feel a little bit minute. They feel like smaller tasks, but when you tie them together to create autonomy, the value generated is enormous. And I see that as quite a good parallel for outside of out of specific AI skills, but when you're tying different specialist applications together, that only compounds. And so I've got one more thing I want to ask you, and perhaps going to be an interesting one for you coming from, I mean, you work largely outside of insurance as well as within insurance, so you see a whole host of challenges. And I wonder if there's anything transferable there and anything that the insurance industry could learn from to improve. So in your view, if you could change anything about the insurance industry, what would that thing be and why?
Probably is directly linked to what I've just said before. It's seeing compliance. Maybe you have heard that dozens, hundreds of times. I'm sorry for people listening, saying, okay, once again. But yes, I truly mean it, to see compliance as a potential way to win business. Because if you are better than your competitors, you will definitely win business. You will onboard faster. You will get rid of the fraudulent people faster. You will lower your risk. So it's only good aspects. But you really have to have a shift internally. And it's honestly, it's a cultural mindset to have for all companies. And it has to come from the C-level. It's a really cultural shift to say, okay, we are not doing that because the regulators asked to do that. We are doing that because if you do it better than people, we will definitely earn easy points, and there is money on the table left. I saw back in the days a big bank, a large bank. They onboarded, the average time they spent to onboard a legal entity was 3 months. 3 months. It's absolutely insane. So you can imagine how frustrated people were and their clients were about this onboarding process. It was again, because I'm coming from the payment industry, it was in business of marketplace. And so you can imagine that the marketplace was waiting on average 3 months before a merchant starts selling on a marketplace. It's absolutely crazy. Of course, for them, to switch from 3 months to 7 days, it's a totally different world, absolutely different world. And in that case, it's right away additional business. So I think step by step, all the industry where we are evolving are doing this shift. But it's a real shift to do. It's a real way, of course, to feel secure, and to be secure and not to be threatened by authorities and not to do bad things. But most of it, and I really mean it, it will bring business. You will earn easy points that other competitors won't do. So yeah, that's the shift I would like to see in insurance worlds, in the insurance sector, but not only everywhere, of course.
Yeah, no, I mean, good answer. I guess stop seeing compliance regulation as a thorn in your side or a series of tasks to complete and be beholden to. See it as an opportunity, because that's what it represents. And I guess for the record and for your benefit, the answer we often get there is to do with the risk-averse nature of the insurance industry and sometimes the inertia against change. So a lot more of a specific answer than what we've had in the past. So nothing to worry about there. Well, Pierre-Henri, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, all the best.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.